Let's talk some Lions. Let's talk Lions Rams overtime winner over Lions win over the Rams in overtime. A thrilling game, really. When you go ahead and look back at it, it's one of those games that NBC probably really happy that they managed to claim this game as their prime time. Could you imagine if this game played out like on 1 o'clock on Sunday, right? Like NBC would be pissed, right? They managed to get, in my opinion, probably the best game of the week. Although, I'm a Lions fan, so of course I'm going to say that. But you had some really good games this week either way. Anyway, there's a lot to break down here. First thing I want to talk about. Let's start with some of the bad, just to get that out of the way, and then we'll end with some of the good. How about that? That sounds good. All right. First things first, I gotta just talk about the penalties. The guy get cleaned up. There's a few bad penalties and spots that gave the Rams extra downs. You had pass interference calls in the end zone. Those are just clean those up. As far as the actual total number of penalties, we did have the same. Yeah, we did have the same number of penalties, but slightly more yards because our penalties were a little worse. Look, it was just one of those things where I would notice the penalty, and it's like if the penalty is noticed after the game, sort of thing, where it's like, okay, it made a massive difference. Even on that final drive, or I don't know if it was the final drive, it was one of those late game drives. The Lions had a false start, and it's like, guys, you can't be committing these penalties when you're in a tight game like this. But look, overall, it's not a major concern, but it is a concern. Like, Terran Arnold is a rookie. I really hope that these pass interference calls are just because he's a rookie and just because it was his first game in the NFL. That's all I'll say about that. Consistency is key. This is another thing I point out. You can't have that many 3-and-out drives. And Jared Goff, to his credit, I want to say it was Jared Goff and maybe Dan Campbell on the radio this morning. One of the two of them said that the 3-and-outs is really what was killer. Lions on third down were 6 for 13, which is not terrible. It's a little under 50%, but it's still not ideal. Like, you can't. It wasn't just the getting over the third downs. It was you get the ball back, you go 3-and-out. I mean, in the third quarter, they get the ball back. They're up 17-3. This would be a chance to really like put the knife in, so to speak. You can drive down the field, you kick a field goal. That makes it a 17-point game. That's a 3-possession lead. You score a touchdown. You make it a 4-possession lead, right? Like, it's like you can't give up on that sort of thing. You got to be able to take advantage of it. And it made a factor in the amount of possession. Like, the Lions had the ball for 5 less minutes than the Rams did, and they had less total yards than the Rams did, and obviously less first down. Like you got away with one here doing that, and the Rams are a good team. That make no qualms about it. They got a good coach. They got a good quarterback. They got great weapons, and they got a young defense that stepped up big, I would say. This has got to be, this shouldn't be a theme of things to come, right? I mean, you put the Rams out 3-and-out on the first drive, and then you go 3-and-out. It's like, you got to be able to take some time off the clock at least. If you can't drive down to score to take a lead or whatever, at least cut away a little bit of the clock, because 3-and-outs, you just can't have it. You just can't have it. I know it's going to happen inevitably, but you just can't have it. And hopefully the offense can get more consistent with that. Another thing that was a little concerning, just from a box score perspective, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a non-factor in this game. This was, without a doubt, his worst game as a Lion. And look, do I think this is a sign of things to come for St. Brown? No. The guy is an absolute animal. He's one of the best wide receivers in the league. And he just got paid. Like, he's comfortable. I don't think there's any semblance of that. I think it was just a matter he wasn't getting a lot of targets. And when he was, he had the interception, he had a drop, he fell to the ground. It was just a bad game for St. Brown. And it happens. It happens. And luckily, other players on the team were able to step up on offense, namely your Jahmyr Gibbses and your Jameson Williams, who we'll talk about briefly here. But I really don't want that to be a trend, although I do want to assuage some people who are like, oh my gosh, St. Brown, he got paid. Does he wash now? He got his money. Now he's not going to work. No, that's not the kind of guy St. Brown is. Or at least I hope it's not the same kind of guy St. Brown is. So hoping for him to have I think he'll have a big game next week. Like, that was the thing. I think I said this on the show or on the live reaction is like, the fact that he had a bad game, he's going to take that personally. Like, he's got that Michael Jordan mentality where it's like, oh, okay, people probably are, dogging me or I had a bad game. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and I'm going to catch, 10 balls for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns or something. Like, I think he'll go nuts next week. I really am not frightened by any stretch of the imagination for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but it was a negative. It was a negative for sure. Now on to the positives. The positive, number one positive, Jameson Williams. He was the best player on the field from either team. Easily the best player on the field. 5 catches, 121 yards, touchdown, 52 long. He had 9 total targets, and he took advantage of all of them. Or he took advantage of the 5 catches that he managed to make out of them. So, over 50% catch rate from his targets. And, he was all over the field. The Lions posted some highlights, I believe, of all of the JMO plays, basically. And he was a threat on the end around, right? On the trick play that they love to run with him. He was a threat in the deep ball it was the third quarter when Jared Goff shot it down the field and JMO was 30 feet ahead of the cornerback. Like, yeah, it was a massive night for Jameson Williams. And I think this is a sign of things to come for him on this offense. Oh, Winfield, that's the corner for the Buccaneers, isn't that right? Like, their whole secondary is cooked. And we'll get into that a little bit here, Armenian man, because I think that this is set up for the Lions offensively to be able to really feast, assuming they can get back to that consistency like I talked about earlier. But Jameson Williams had a fantastic night. I really hope he can continue to go off of this, and this isn't just a one-hit wonder for JMO. I mean, we did see it. Like, that's the thing. We did see it in the NFC Championship game last year. Like, he had a 2-touchdown game in the NFC Championship game, but people forget because the Lions lost the game. I think he is going to be a massive upgrade for this offense. And again, assuming you get Gibbs more involved and Laporta and St. Brown, it's going to be a who's who of what are the defenses even supposed to do because somebody's going to end up wide open. And I think, to be honest with you, it's very possible that is why JMO had such a great game this game, because he was the one that the Rams defensively didn't really scheme against. They schemed against Laporta. They schemed against St. Brown. They schemed against Gibbs and all of them. But Amon-Ra or Jameson Williams, he was ready to feast. So, but that's not to say that this is going to be his best game of his career or anything, or of the season. Not gonna go that far or anything. But either way, and I wanted to compliment the defense. I mean, I will compliment any defense in the NFL. If you hold a team to 20 or less points, that's a success, right? When you go one half and you give up 3 total points, that can bury a team. And look, the Rams, they came back, but look, probably 6 or 7 teams out of 10, you bury them for 3 points in the first half, they're not going to win the game. And the Rams didn't end up winning the game. So, but they came pretty darn close. And I described this defense during the live broadcast this way, and I've heard it described this way before. This is a bend but don't break defense. You'll be able to get your yards up. I mean, Stafford threw for 317 yards. Cooper Kupp had 110 yards in the air. But you will not score on this defense. You can move down the field. You might be able to have some Duncan time. You might be able to be on the field for a long time. But it's not going to be easy when you get in the red zone. It really won't be. I want to say, let me see if I can see what their red zone, does it show? Yeah. The Rams went 2 for 5 on the red zone. Like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I don't know if that's including field goal drives. I don't think it is. Like, 2 total touchdowns on the game is amazing, especially given the fact of where the defense was last year, where even a couple of years ago, where the defense was just really, really bad. And true, we do got to clean up some of those penalties, Armenian man. I made reference to that earlier. But overall, the defense played outstandingly. And the defensive line, let me give you a couple of numbers here. All right. 50, 16, 10, and 7. Do you know what those numbers are? Those are the 4 rushes Those are the 4 total yards from the individual rushers on the Rams. 50 yards from Kyron Williams, 16 yards from Ronnie Rivers, 10 from Cooper Kupp, and 7 from Puka Nacua. That is 83 total yards on the ground. They didn't give up a football field's worth of running in this game. And this is a carryover from last year. You cannot run on this defense. Like, just get it out of your playbook. And to Sean McVay's credit, I think he realized that because that Stafford threw 49 times because he was like, we're not going to be able to run on this defense. And the thing about it is, and we didn't have DJ Reader. That's what's even crazier. Good point, Armenian man. Like, the other thing that's even crazier about this is we held this team to less than 100 yards. And what happens when you hold a team to less than 100 rushing yards? It means that they're not in control of the game. It doesn't matter because they're not controlling the clock. When we have the offense on the field, we're controlling the clock. They got to complete passes to control the clock. And that's a lot harder than just handing the ball off to your running back. And that really was ultimately the ability to run the football was the difference, right? We win the coin toss and David Montgomery just manhandles the Rams defense because they were just cooked because we were running all over them basically the whole game. But the ability to stop the run is one of the more underrated parts of defense in general. Because when you can't run the ball, like I said, you can't control the clock. And controlling the clock is like at least half the battle, right? Like if you are able to force the other team to beat you in the air, that means that, first of all, most of the quarterbacks in this league are not going to be all that good, so they're not going to beat you in the air. And on top of the fact that the secondary did get better ultimately, despite obviously the large volume of yards that Stafford had, he still on ESPN had just a 62 QBR and an 85 rating, which again is not terrible, but like it's one of those things where it really is a mark in favor of this defense improving. And we look ahead to Tampa Bay with their secondary hurt, obviously. But they got a lot of weapons in the air, obviously, with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. They have weapons. We saw them last year in the playoffs. They're going to be coming back here. They're going to probably have a similar mindset as the Rams, as we were the team who ended their season last year. They're going to really want to win this game. One problem. They're not going to be able to run the ball, right? They're not going to be able to control the clock. I got a feeling it's going to be a repeat of last year and potentially even more damaging because now you have your secondary that is beat to all hell, and we have the added factor of a new toy in our play box named Jamison Williams, who's going to be able to take the top off of defense. So, look, the season couldn't have started in a more exciting way for Detroit, and I think that by next week's show, hopefully the Lions are 2-0 at that point. I think we will really get to see what this offense is capable of, and that rust is kind of settled. Like, I remember last year, I mean, granted, it was a loss, but last year, our opening game against the Chiefs, we scored 21 points? Something like that? It wasn't that many points. It wasn't the best night offensively for Detroit. What happened the next week? Well, it was a lot of scoring. Ultimately, the Seahawks ended up winning in overtime, but it was a lot of scoring. And I could see the very similar thing happening again this week, except the result is going to be much more in favor of Detroit because I don't know how Tampa Bay is going to be able to stop the passing game this time. So as long as Jared Goff is on point and Jared Goff is hitting his guys and the receivers are running good routes, which I believe they will be able to do, I think it's going to be a long, long afternoon for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week. So overall, great win. Looking forward to next week. We are on to Tampa Bay. Hi, it's me again. If you enjoyed what you just saw, hit the like and subscribe button. We do live shows every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see you there.